It is 1 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica. Two former NFL coaches have joined Brian Flores' lawsuit against the NFL and multiple teams alleging racism in hiring practices. One of them, former Titans defensive coordinator Ray Horton, who spent the 2014 and 15 seasons on Ken Wisenhunt's staff in Nashville, alleging he underwent sham interviews to comply with the Rooney Rule during the Titans hiring cycle in 2016 when the team ultimately ended up elevating interim head coach Mike Mularkey. Now, a Seymour Putters Masters update as the first round is well underway and all eyes on Tiger Woods. Limping a little bit during the ninth hole, but Tiger even through 10 as he moves on to 11. Four golfers tied for the lead at 2 under, including Cameron Smith and Joaquin Niemann. It is opening day in Major League Baseball. The Milwaukee Brewers are at the Chicago Cubs for the first game of the season, a 1:20 first pitch. Tonight, the Atlanta Braves begin their title defense hosting the Cincinnati Reds at 7 p.m. The Preds back on the road tonight after a massive win over Minnesota on Tuesday at the Ottawa Senators for a 6 p.m. puck drop. Preds remain fourth in the Central, 6 points back of the St. Louis Blues. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once and you're home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Happy Thursday afternoon. Welcome to Blaine and Mickey right here on 104.5 The Zone, your home for Titans and Vols. Mickey out for the next couple of days. Some well-deserved time off. Rhett Bryan filling in for him, but the hit man is right here by my side. We're ready to roll for the next 2 hours here in the Music City with lots to discuss. Tiger is currently on the course at Augusta and currently making his way through the first round of the Masters. We will get you an update on that soon. A Titans wide receiver has moved to another team now as Marcus Johnson has agreed with the 49ers per several outlets. Oh, wow. And Doug Mathews will be here to talk Vols football at 2:20 about spring practice. They had their first scrimmage yesterday on the Hill in Knoxville. We'll get into that. But Blaine, the big story is the one that has come out in ESPN from Kevin Van Valkenburg about additional complainants added in the racial discrimination lawsuit that Brian Flores has filed against the league just a few weeks ago. And now it's adding Steve Wilks, who was the Arizona Cardinals head coach for one season in 2018 before they hired Cliff Kingsbury. And then Ray Horton, the former defensive coordinator for the Titans, who also interviewed for the Titans head coaching job in 2016. And the crux of this is what's coming to light is this podcast, Steelers Realm podcast that former head coach Mike Mularkey has done.
Did in what year? It was the year
2020, right?
Oh, I don't know.
I think it was in 2020. Is that right?
2020, that's what Luke says. Okay.
And basically alleging that there was fraudulent practices in hiring because they interviewed Terrell Austin. They interviewed Steve Wilks and Ray Sherman. But anyway, Ray Horton. And he's basically saying that, things were not right. And so let's hear Mike Mularkey from this podcast. Lucas, roll that right now, please.
Your coaching career that you might have done differently or changed?
That's a good question. I'll tell you guys this. I've always prided myself in doing the right thing in this business, and I can't say that's true about everybody in this business. It's a very cutthroat business, and a lot of guys will tell you that. But I allowed myself at one point when I was in Tennessee to get caught up in something I regret, and I still regret it. But the ownership there, Amy Adams Strunk and her family, came in and told me I was going to be the head coach in 2016 before they went through the Rooney Rule. And so I sat there knowing I was the head coach in 16 as they went through this fake hiring process, knowing a lot of the coaches that they were interviewing, knowing how much they prepared to go through those interviews, knowing that everything they could do and they had no chance of getting that job. And actually the GM, John Robinson, he was in on the interview with me. He had no idea why he's interviewing me, that I have the job already. And I regret that's because I pride myself in my kids first that they do the right thing. And I always said that to the players. And here I am, the head guy, not doing it. And I've regretted that since then. It was the wrong thing to do. I'm sorry I did that. But it was not the way to go about it. Should have interviewed like everybody else and got hired because of the interview, not early on. So that's probably my biggest regret.
So there's former head coach Mike Mularkey on Steelers Realm podcast discussing flaws in the Rooney Rule. Now, Blaine, I think you're in agreement with me that I don't think things are right in the hiring process when it comes to minorities. I think that's something that has to be corrected moving forward. They've attempted to do that, in my opinion, with the Rooney Rule. But I have a problem with trying to incentivize those things.
Oh, I completely agree.
You know, I would like to, and again, I'm talking perfect world utopia here, but if I would like to hire a coach based on his merit and his resume, like I told you before we got on the air, I don't care if you're greening from Mars. If you're the best head coach, let's roll, right? If you interview and I like it and this is what we're going to do, then great. But, you know, something has to be done to stave off what is being alleged here with systemic racism and, you know, the way things go. That's just kind of been my opinion of it. And, you know, they made tweaks to the Rooney Rule, incentivizing it with draft picks and the like. And I just think there's got to be a different way that you can go about it.
Well, this is there's a lot of, moving parts here. Let's just start off with the Rooney Rule. I'm not sure you can force someone to hire a minority candidate. I've been consistent on that from the beginning because you got to put yourself in the shoes of an owner. So you're talking about a billionaire. So you're going to actually tell the billionaire what he has to do? Just think about any other job interviews. There's all kind of times where the most highly qualified candidate doesn't get the job in any parts of this world. Like that goes on all the time. And if you want to say that now, look at the league. They're hiring guys that really are just quarterbacks coaches sometimes to be the head coach. So what is their resume looking like? That's not a broad resume. It's because of who they coached under.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean they take on all those traits. And if you've only done it for a year or two, it's kind of interesting. It's just, to me, it becomes a trendy thing. Like, okay, let's hire all these coaches that are young now, or let's take all these different guys who had success under another coach. So that's where I think minorities, should probably view and look at where they should go. But just put yourself, if you're the owner, I mean, you're a billionaire, somebody's going to tell you what to do. Now, the criteria of the Rooney Rule was that you interview minority qualified candidates. And in this situation here with the Titans, I think what happened was here, the ownership, and if I can recall right, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think they actually hired Mularkey, or at least that was what reported, before they hired John Robinson. Now, I don't know if that's true because listen to the podcast, it looks like, that's why John Robinson said, I don't even know why I'm interviewing you. Now, I think because he thought he was already the hire to the Titans as the head coach. So, there's a lot of moving parts here. I don't know if anything will come about this one. It'll be interesting to see if Mularkey, who I think, he felt like he was unjustly fired, and every, whether coach, player, if it's not handled correctly in his eyes, he's going to feel that way. So there's a little bit of an axe to grind there because it was like there was rumors coming out going into the playoff game that he wasn't going to be the coach after the season. Then he happens to win the game. Then Amy had to come out with statements about that he was going to be the coach. And then literally after the next week that he lost, then they let him go a week after that. So I think John Robinson wanted to hire his guy. So through all that, I think that happens all the time. And I don't think a lot of people, Brian Flores, who's a stand-up guy from everything that I've talked to anybody who knows of him at any extent of time, is a stand-up guy. But I'm interested to see where this lawsuit goes because it's going to be hard for guys who actually are coaching to think that they can join this lawsuit and continue their careers as coaches. Now, everybody's going to say, oh, well, Brian Flores is. Well, yeah, because he's the head guy. So the league has to put out their perception that they are still, we're not doing this. And by the way, it was hired by Tomlin, who is actually I'm going to call him the Rooney Rule, first one annoyed because Rooney was actually the owners of the Steelers. And he was going to hire somebody else to coach the Steelers. And they said, put your money where your mouth is. You hire one, a minority candidate. And
that's worked out quite well.
And that's worked out really well for him. And that's how Tomlin got the job. So that's how the Rooney Rule, first started, moving forward. I just think it's a tough task to really try to prove that this goes on. I think it does go on. It's pretty clear cut. But to think that you can prove it, it's going to be really hard because I think Malarkey's going to backpedal a little bit here in how he's going to phrase what happened when he was interviewing here with the Titans. So, and I don't know if that's enough to prove in court. If you do go to court, and he's subpoenaed to come and speak and ask questions to, that he can definitively say he had the job. Like, who told him that? Then they could say, well, yeah, we were hoping we hire you, but, we don't know what this process is going to look like when we go through the other candidates.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear you frame it that way, because at hearing that cut from Mike Malarkey, I thought the same thing, because I knew it didn't end well. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, there's a layer of however much you want to carve up the pie of some resentment there, animosity there, and the way that ended. That doesn't mean that this didn't happen or what, but you have to kind of, before you rush to judgment, look at all the puzzle pieces. And this article's not all of the puzzle pieces. It's just part of the whole deal. We'll get into a quote from Ray Horton in this when we come back from break as to his decision to join this lawsuit. And if you have reaction to this, you can call the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline, 615-737-1045 if you want to jump in. We're talking that. We're talking draft. We'll be talking Vols with Coach Mathews next hour. Also next hour, an hour from now, we'll be giving away Preds tickets. So you want to get ready for that at 2:20. Got a lot to go over in this next couple of hours. We want you involved if you want to do it. 615-737-1045. Rhett Bryan filling in for Mickey Ryan here with Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone. Mickey out for the next couple of days, enjoying some time. Rhett Bryan filling in for him, but the hitman's always here.
Opening day.
That's right.
That's what he says at the
Let's
Cardinals.
say that. Let's say it because he took his son, Rabble, Christopher, to the ballpark in St. Louis and is going to opening day to see the Cardinals. What a great father-son outing that is.
Oh, that's pretty
And
cool.
that's a tough ticket, too, man.
Oh, yeah.
That's a baseball town if there ever was one.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So he's a true blue, I guess, or red Cardinals fan. So,
red in this case.
So I
that's
saw him
right.
with the Arc and everything else. I think he's with, going to see his in-laws too.
Oh,
as
the
well.
old St. Louis Arch, yes.
Yeah, I've been there numerous times.
We were talking about that yesterday, and man,
Yeah.
you're right. When you're up, the first thing it's like 300 feet tall, something like that, and they got these little crazy little elevators. You ride up the sides of it. When you get up on the top of that thing, now it's neat to see out over the river and this and that and the other. But that thing's moving, and on a windy day, it's moving a little more than maybe I would want.
Yeah.
And the time I went, I'm like, I'm ready to go back down. We're good.
I went as a youngster, probably a handful of times, growing up in the Midwest, going to Cardinals games, and I think they have Six Flags there. That was another reason why we would go there. But getting that Arc was kind of something fascinating. But as I got older, when I get up there, I'm like, oh man,
You don't know what you should be afraid of when you're that.
When I was young, when I'm like 12, I'm like, I don't know, this thing is moving. I think we need to get out of here. But it is pretty cool though. So well,
that's
good luck
for
Mickey
bringing the
there
young
and
man.
make sure they stay safe. But
That's
have
right.
a good time there. And
looks like they got good weather for it too. So that's great, fantastic. So if you're joining us again, if you want to get in on the conversation, 615-737-1045. We will talk Vols next hour. We will talk NFL draft. We'll talk Titan stuff. Obviously, the topic that has spun today is Brian Van Valkenburg's piece in ESPN.com. Brian Flores' lawsuit against the NFL now involves former Arizona Cardinals head coach Steve Wilks and also former defensive coordinator for the Titans, Ray Horton. Here's a quote from Ray Horton about why he joined this. I am proud to stand with Coach Flores and Coach Wilks in combating systemic discrimination, which has plagued the NFL for far too long. When I learned from Coach Mularkey's statements that my head coach interview with the Titans was a sham, I was devastated and humiliated. By joining this case, I'm hoping to turn that experience into a positive and making lasting change and create true equal opportunity in the future, end quote. Now, to add some flair to this, Lucas has prepared. Here is a cut from Mike Mularkey on Ross Tucker's podcast, also, I believe, from 2020. Go ahead with that.
Got hired basically before the GM. I'm not even sure he's aware of that, but I was hired before he was even hired. But it was John Robinson, and ownership. Amy Adams Strunk got a little more involved with the everyday operations, and with the length of my contract, I only had a 3-year contract, so that didn't show a lot of support from the very beginning. So I just thought, we had to do what we did to get to the level we were. We came up short, obviously, in the division game against New England. And, I don't really never had a conversation. There was never any year-end meeting. No, we should do this or we should do that. It was absolutely nothing. It was just, we're going to let you go. So, anyways, I'm over that. I'm happy in life right now. Enjoyed my job last year with the Falcons, and looking forward to lots more to do with this family here.
So you hear him say, I'm over it, and that's that. And, but that's like saying, with all due respect, and I'm going to call you everything but a cedar bush. It's like prefacing something. Like, I hear just a smidge in there of bitterness from how that thing ended, regardless of what happened. And let's play now from earlier today on the Buck Rising Show, frequent contributor Dan Lust, who is part of the Conduct Detrimental podcast on sports law. Dan Lust on those comments about that from Mike Mularkey. You got Dan Lust there?
So I'm going to give you this, I guess a legal term. People have heard it, right? Hearsay. Hearsay is an out-of-court statement, right? That's not done, not sworn under oath or anything like that. Certainly there are exceptions to hearsay that can come in. But, for all intents and purposes, this is going to be pretty relevant, right? People were spending so much time talking about the Bill Belichick text message, which is another form of hearsay, right? That's an out-of-court statement. It's not done under oath. But at the end of the day, right, Mike Mularkey's going to get called, I would think, either as some form of a deposition. He might be subpoenaed in. He might be asked to, answer questions under oath. And, he could try to walk back his comments. I listened to it a couple times. Mularkey, the same thing I told you with Bill Belichick, right? I don't know if Bill Belichick actually knew that Daboll was going to be hired by the Giants. Mularkey might, when asked again, he might say something, hey, I thought I was going to get the job. They were leaning towards me. Nothing was official. Nothing was signed. That's how it seemed like the Titans will get around it, I would think, right? Mike Mularkey, he didn't sign any papers. He wasn't officially the head coach. And maybe that was his perception of the event. So it's not, none of these things can definitively prove, the allegations here. It's certainly very helpful to the case, but people kind of need to take a step back. That's why you hire, high-powered lawyers on the other side to say, hey, Mularkey, that was his perception of the events. He ended up getting the job, but that doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. So people might be quick here to put some dirt on the grave of the Titans, right, with respect to this lawsuit. But it's just step one, right? That's why you hire lawyers to kind of fight back on the other side here. So yeah, let's see how the Titans respond. The Giants, I think, gave an effective statement when they got these Bill Belichick text messages. I imagine the Titans will say something like that. But Mularkey, that's his perception of events back in 2020. Speaking of events that happened 4 years prior, but certainly the Titans are going to have their own view of it.
There is Dan Lust of the Conduct Detrimental podcast on sports law from earlier on the Buck Rising show. You can tell he's an attorney. He framed it up. That's billable hours talking right there.
I'm gonna address what was said on the first podcast there, and that was just he was asked a question. And so I thought Mularkey was very forthcoming in being honest. I think at the time, the reason why he phrased it at the end there that I'm over that is because at the time when the actual act happened, he wasn't. He wasn't very happy about the whole situation. But at the time of the interview, since it was over and he was asked a question, he was just basically honestly being honest about that. He was upset at the time, and then now that's over and done with, and I've kind of moved on.
That was in the rearview mirror.
Right.
Yeah.
And then as far as what Dan Lust here, what it tells me, if they have paperwork from his agent that he was already the head coach and is dated before the other interviews, because he keeps saying, he's pretty clear, I don't know if John Robinson even knew I was hired as the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if he was hired and they can prove that he was hired, it's not a conversation that you had and said, hey, we're going to hire you. We just got to go through this interview process. Maybe they didn't go into the extent of that, but they just said, hey, you're our guy.
Mm-hmm.
If you got proof with your agent, paperwork, and all those things that can line up according to what you're saying beforehand, before they gave these other interviews, I think then you may have something. But if it's just them saying you're going to be the guy, I just don't think that's going to jive in court, because you got to have some proof to back it up to make everyone feel 100% confident that that's what was done.
I think you're exactly right, because saying these things, putting them in an ESPN article and putting them into the paperwork of a lawsuit is one thing, but proving them might prove to be difficult.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that's I respect your approach on this, because it's how I'm looking at it. I'm like, no, wait a minute. The first thing I want our zone listeners to think about is, well, the Titans are in trouble now, and, they've been named in this lawsuit. Let me tell you something. They and the other 31 teams have been named in this lawsuit now. Mm-hmm. This is a league thing. This is not just a Titans thing.
Right.
So,
just to go a little further, though, just like with the lawsuit of Brian Flores when it started with the Dolphins, I didn't know how much information he had against the owner, but what I did say was about the gambling and him incentivizing him to lose games. That was in writing. I said that has more legs than the other lawsuit.
I couldn't agree with you
so
more.
So I was just like, it's hard to prove someone did something unless you have actual proof. And then if it's just you and him, then it's just your word versus my word.
That's right.
So if you have in writing that this guy incentivized you to lose games so they could get a better pick, I'm like,
you hit the nail on the head, because when I saw that article, I thought the same thing. I'm like, look, this is bad what's being talked about right here. But this, good Lord, you talk about a smoking gun if there's one, because the league has had an arm's length, stay away, no gambling, no nothing. And, to the point that players were suspended. I mean, the most famous case was in 1963 when Alex Karras and Paul Hornig was suspended for a year for illegal. Now, that's betting with bookies and, whatever. But, it's always been that. And then as those things have changed and now it's major revenue streams, it's a different stance. Now, you know this better than anybody because you were a player for so long. It's preached and embedded in these players from the time they come into rookies to whatever. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. When we talked about the whole stuff, with the receiver from Atlanta.
Right, gambling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people that want to talk.
Ridley.
Let's, Calvin Ridley. Thank you. I had a brain mechanism there, brain sideways. Let's go to the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. We have people loaded up on lines that
give
want
us
to
your
talk about
opinions
this.
and solutions.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to hear, too.
It doesn't have to be the Rooney Rule, but you can give it any name you want to. But how do you try to resolve this and take it into the corporate world as well? If you're having hiring practices, how can you make someone hire a minority?
Yeah, I think that's valid. 615-737-1045. Let's go first to Paul in Lebanon. Paul, you're on with Blaine and Rhett Bryan on the Blaine and Mickey program. What's up?
Yes, thank you, guys. I'm a 90-year-old Baptist preacher, and let me just say this in life, malarkey needs to get over it. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. When these owners see a coach to hire, they don't see black, white, pink, or whatever. It's all about winning. And if you don't win, you're out, black, white, or whatever. So that's my comment. Let me say one other thing to you. I'm 90-year-old. When you talk about this stadium again, see if they'll build it where I can come down and sit in out of the cold. Okay? Thank you.
All right, Paul, thanks.
What did he say?
He said, when they build this stadium, can we make sure that it's like a closed dome or a retractable roof so he can go sit out in it and not be in the cold?
Oh, gotcha.
Paul wants to go to a Titans game. I like it. All right, let's continue the conversation. Thanks for the call, Paul. And let's go to Brandon in Lebanon, who wants to talk about Brian Flores' lawsuit. Go ahead, Brandon.
Hey, guys. How are y'all doing today?
Great. You?
Great,
So the whole Flores lawsuit that's going on, the question I have is, well, one, I'll just give my take on Malarkey's part of that. Like, to me, it almost sounds like it was like sour grapes. He felt bad because he was told something and then it didn't come to fruition. So, let's throw whoever I can under the bus just to make sure, I kind of get my point across. But the other caveat to that part is, or the question I have to that is, with this lawsuit going on, does it make Amy Adams Strunk look bad at all as far as like going forwards with the city to try to get the new plans for the stadium, or does it get frowned upon because of the fact that her name is attached to that?
Brandon, thank you for the call. I appreciate that. I think that's a good question. You got an answer for that? Because what I'm saying, I'm thinking about what Dan Lust said, that cut we played just a moment ago on Buck's show earlier today. This is not a document submitted in court in terms of what Malarkey has said on these various podcasts. It's not an official. Will it be used maybe as an evidentiary tool? Sure. Yeah, I could maybe see that. But back to your point, you've got to have the proof.
Yeah, I don't think they got proof. I don't think it's going to have anything to do with them getting a new stadium. I think that's how he kind of ended it. But, I think what we've been saying, before earlier here already is that it's going to be hard to prove in court unless they have it in writing. Unless he had a contract already in writing. You got emails, you got phone calls documented, and then you got to prove what was said on those phone calls, by the way, too. That somebody pre-recorded them, which sometimes could happen.
Sure.
Just never know from, an agent's perspective, just to, hold people accountable. I really don't see a lot coming from this, for me personally, until I see that there's evidence, hard evidence, to the fact that this happened, because you can always just take down one guy and say, well, this is what he perceived was. That's not what the intent was. So it's always a gray area. It's never defined.
That's right. 615-737-1045. Let's see if Jedi in Bowling Green has a solution or a proposal for
help us
a revised
out, man.
Rooney
I don't
Rule.
know
What
where
you
to
got,
go.
Jedi?
How do you fix this?
I don't know if you can get a solution, guys.
Right.
I do know that 70% of the NFL is black, and less than 5% of the head coaches are black. So I think, over the years, you've seen a pattern of discrimination. Now, how to rectify that, I'm not sure. The comments that were made today, we'll just have to wait and see. Like you said, Rhett, a lot of this is legalese, and we'll see. But I really called about a draft question, if I could get into that.
Well, let's go, Jedi.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah. Say one of the two big tackles that I think everybody in the draft, the guy from Alabama and the one from North Carolina State, say they drop down below 15, 16 in that range. Do you think that John would go up and get one of those boys?
Well, Jedi, thanks for the call. Appreciate that. First of all, hypothetically, I don't think either one of those, Evan Neal or Ike Ekwonu, fall into the teens. I just don't see, unless there's some kind of deal where a video of
I could say that I'm cheering for that to happen, though.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But like that
happen.
night that, what's his name, fell to 15 or whatever it was with the
Laramie Tunsil?
Yeah, Laramie Tunsil
Gas
video.
mask?
Unless there's something like that, I don't necessarily think that would happen. The problem with your hypothetical question is John Robinson does not have enough to trade up. He does not have enough capital that he wants. He doesn't have a 7. He doesn't have a 2. He's got multiple picks in round 6. But he doesn't have enough of what he would need to make that move up, even if he wanted to. I think he values that trade commodity that he has in picks.
Do you think there's a possibility, anything's possible, but that they would go tackle?
Oh, sure.
With the 26th pick?
Oh, hey, listen, Buck had a poll question on his show today about, because Peter Schrager from Good Morning Football on the NFL Network had Nakobe Dean, the linebacker from Georgia, at 26 in his mock. And would you be upset if they took a linebacker at 26? When you're talking best value, it could be anything. I mean, technically, it could be a quarterback. But it could be linebacker Nakobe Dean. I wouldn't hate that pick. Now, knowing you need a tight end, you need some help on the O-line or whatever. But Nakobe Dean is somebody who can help you immediately.
Oh, yeah, I love him. Yeah, what number was he, 41 or 11? He was one of those linebackers for Georgia.
Yeah, and he's 3-down linebacker.
Yeah.
That dude was all
I remember
over
when
the
they played
place.
Tennessee, I was like, they're playing an NFL defense.
And
Sorry.
we're about to find that out 3 weeks from tonight because a bunch of
dude.
those guys are going to be
I
picked.
said, these linebackers are running around here like there is no tomorrow, and they get there and they finish upset.
He was wearing 17 in college.
17, yeah, okay. Yeah, he was upset. Which one got suspended or got in a little bit of trouble? Was that 17?
Wasn't Nakobe Dean. Dean has always been a leader for that defense. Really
Okay,
highly recruited, too.
Yeah, he was
One of
top
the guys.
15 in the nation. He was a Buckets Award winner in high school. He apparently was one of the leaders of that thing.
Okay.
Smaller guy, 5'11", but he's 225. Thumper. He is a lot like, people look at him in a couple of comps, a lot like Roquan Smith, who also played at Georgia, who's the linebacker for the Bears. And then he's getting some Levante David comparisons for the Bucks. And hey, either one of those, good linebacker,
Really
no
good,
doubt.
Really good.
Let's finish up right here this segment with Buffalo. Buffalo, you're on Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone. Go right ahead.
It's going to be hard to pin down Miss Amy being a minority herself in the legalese of, a minority can be a woman.
Yep,
that's
Native
true.
Native American is a minority. All these companies out here that want to work for the state and take state contracts, they all have to have minorities in their payroll, and if they don't, they have to hire subcontractors owned by women and minorities. I don't know if it's 10%, I don't know the percent, but it's a percent, and you won't get a state contract without it. So if you want to look at minorities in a bigger scope, there's a lot to think about. Y'all have a great show.
Hey, thanks, Buffalo. Appreciate that. And he's right. I mean, in certain workplace of all things in life, there are rules in place. But he's basically saying you can't get a state contract unless you have a certain percentage of minority staff.
Yeah, well, that's the staff members haven't been an issue for any NFL team. It's the head coach position. They have, minority, staff members all over the place in the NFL.
Oh, there's
so
African American
the issue is that they're not getting a fair shot
on every team in numbers.
Have to put in 10, 15, whatever years for an interview to have a chance to be a head coach.
Now, Buffalo has a valid point that it's hard to see Amy Adams Strunk alleged in this piece because she is a minority herself. There are only 4 women in the NFL who are owners, or at least a part of the ownership. Kim Pegula being half of, with her and Terry Pegula that own the Buffalo Bills and the Buffalo Sabres. But it's just there's so much to this. You're right. That you said it best. There's a lot of moving parts to this, and it's very sensitive in nature. There's so many people involved in this. I don't know where it's going to go, but we're going to find out.
Do you think there's a different criteria, and it may not be comparable, everybody out there listening, that the criteria, like Deshaun Watson just got a guaranteed contract. This is what I'm thinking here. And I go, man, we don't know where this lawsuit outside of football was going. I have no idea on the, So, and they gave him a guaranteed contract, the biggest in NFL history. So is there a different criteria for, they'll do whatever they can for a great player, but when it comes to great coaches at positional groups, is it looked at and viewed at differently by ownership? If you go all the way out on a limb for a player who got all these lawsuits against him, which they may think he's going to get out of them or navigate through and settle, then why aren't you hiring or interviewing minority coaches in the same extent? See, because to me, it's something within them as an ownership group all across the country in the NFL is that I think they believe most minority candidates can't be great leaders. I think that's where it comes from. For me personally, that's just my opinion. I could be totally off base. I think that's where it started. Now, it may have evolved and changed over time, but I think that's where it started.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm of the opinion, as far as Brian Flores, he's a damn good football coach. And I think he should be a head coach somewhere in this league. We'll see if he is once the dust settles on these things, and that may take a long time. Litigation usually does.
I'm going to add this to the Brian Flores real quick. I thought he played, if he was going to go down this road of the lawsuit, he should have waited till he got a head coaching job. Maybe he thought he wasn't, but there were still some teams on the plate that he could have.
You think he was quick on the trigger.
Right, and then waited to see, and then if it didn't work out, come up with the lawsuit. I don't know what the rush was because I think he still had the Texans and it was somebody else out there that were interviewing him and potentially he was on a docket to be the head coach.
Right.
At least he was in the high running part of being one of the finalists.
Right. Lots to cover in Blaine and Mickey today, and we're talking about some very important and sensitive topics here with the racial discrimination lawsuit that's now including Steve Wilks, former Arizona head coach of the Cardinals, and former defensive coordinator Ray Horton of the Titans. We'll get to that. We're going to get to some draft talk. We're going to get to some Vols talk coming up. More of your phone calls, too, 615-737-1045, as you listen to Blaine and Mickey on 1045 The Zone. Blaine and Mickey back on 104.5 The Zone to wrap up hour one of the program. Rhett Bryan filling in for Mickey Ryan. Blaine Bishop right here with us as we have been discussing the Rooney Rule and the lawsuit that has now expanded into more former coaches, one of those being Ray Horton, former defensive coordinator of the Titans. Let's do a quick update from the Masters as we see it. Tiger Woods through 12 holes is right now even. Is
do we know the leaderboard, Lucas? The leaderboard. Do we know where's he at in regard to the leaders? That's what I'm looking for. But yeah, man, he's looking pretty sharp on his swings. I put money if I was betting, which I'm not a betting man. I said he wasn't going to finish. I thought his glutes weren't going to fire at some point.
He's pretty far down. You've got three guys tied for the lead at 3 under. One of those guys is Danny Willett, and then several tied at 2 under, and several more at 1 under.
Okay, so he's pretty far back. Yeah, I would agree with you that first of all, he's 14 months removed from horrific car wreck. They basically rebuilt his right leg. He was in the hospital for 3 months, and he obviously has worked his rear end off, speaking of firing glutes, to get back to this point. It's a fantastic story, and I've never been to Augusta, but I've been told about how hilly it is, and it doesn't really do it justice there. He's in 23rd position at even par. How hilly it is there at Augusta. And just walking that whole thing. I have no doubt he can hit the ball. I have no doubt he can sink a birdie and all those things he's done a gajillion times before. But he's 46 years old and just a shade over a year removed from a really bad car wreck that could have left him crippled.
Yeah, it's admirable that he's even out there playing.
Oh, God, it's unbelievable. But I'm with you. First of all, can he make it through and then – Can he make it through this round and Friday, and then can he make the cut? That's the bottom line in that.
Tough task, but it's going to be pretty remarkable.
So, interesting remark. I know you guys and a lot of folks on the station here have been talking about A.J. Brown. Head coach Mike Vrabel of the Titans was on the Rich Eisen show today and was asked by Rich, is A.J. on the trade block? Quote, not as long as I'm the head coach. I'm okay with that answer.
Yeah,
that's fine with me. But again, there's the head coach trying to put to rest all these rumors about the Jets and reaching out for wide receivers, whether it's DK Metcalf or himself. Here's what I don't understand about the Jets. You have picks at 5 and 10 or 5 and 11, whatever it is. Why not just draft a good wide receiver right there and have him on a rookie contract?
Maybe they're afraid they'll pick the wrong one. They want
Matt
a proven commodity.
Matt Miller did a lot when he was the general manager. It seemed like he picked a receiver every year. Charlie Rogers at third overall that year and from Michigan State, and that never really worked out.
I just believe all of this receiver stuff is coming from his agent, maybe contact with Rich Eisen, maybe put not Rich Eisen, but the radio guy, Samini, and kind of just gave him a little bit of something that, hey, man, they've been interested, they talked to us, and maybe it was just a general conversation when he had another client as well. So you just don't know where it's going to go. But the guys are going to get paid. All of those guys in that group, in that class, they are really good players, Debo as well as DK Metcalf. I'm sure there's some other ones on the list, but they're at the top of the list. So.
You know what? I'm glad you said that. I've got 4 who I think are the 4 next guys to get paid, and they're all in that 2019 draft class. We're going to do that in the 2 o'clock hour to start before we have Doug Mathews at 2:20.
Receivers, though.
No, receivers. Yeah,
okay,
receivers. The 4 receivers that I think are next in line to get paid, and they're all from the 2019 draft class that A.J. Brown was a part of. And, of course, A.J. Brown is one of those 4. Let me tease it that way. Let's go quickly to Bubba in Dixon who wants to talk about the Rooney Rule. Go ahead, Bubba.
Hey, guys. I think Blaine has been hitting it on the nail on the head the entire time. You can't tell these millionaire owners who to hire, correct?
Yeah.
Then the only thing I foresee, and I just like throw stuff against the wall, see if it sticks, but the only way you're going to create change is the NFL needs to put their money where their mouth is. Why don't you grab a San Antonio or build your own stadium? Put up Peyton Manning, didn't Condoleezza Rice and she big in college football. Put somebody as the operating president Make them have their own board, make them have their own interviews. Because to create change and create opportunity, you got to give the individuals opportunities. But you can't tell me right now, Mike Tomlin, say Pete Carroll retired. Mike Tomlin was born in Seattle. I guarantee you he would get that job, but that's because of the success he's had. So they need to put their money where their mouth is, build their own stadiums, and just have a president who runs it.
All right, Bubba, appreciate the call. And in a perfect world, yes, but you're talking about everything that upsets the big money machine known as the National Football League. That's $9 billion a year and going up all the time with all the sports betting monies.
Yeah, I'd like to see how that flies.
And Mike Tomlin ain't taking that job in Seattle if it comes open.
Not right now, because he's doing just fine at where the three rivers converge in the Steel City.
Yeah, we can always use it for leverage, though. You know, the coaches can use a lot of different things for leverage while they're still currently in their positions. It seems as though, well, at least for sure in college.
Yep.
Maybe not so much.
But in a perfect world, we would have something different here. And I just don't know what it is. But I hope someone comes up with a proposal of a revised Rooney Rule that works. And we'll see what happens with that. On the way, I'm going to tell you the 4 guys that are in line to get paid, one of those being A.J. Brown. They're all from the 2019 draft class. And then we got a busy hour. We have Doug Mathews to talk Vols at 2:20. Also giving away Preds tickets next hour, too. So we've got plenty going on to roll into hour number 2 of Blaine and Mickey. I'm Rhett Bryan filling in for Mickey Ryan. Blaine Bishop, the Hitman, is right here on your home for Titans football. 104.5 The Zone. Booyah!
It is 2 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica. Former NFL coaches Steve Wilks and Ray Horton have joined Brian Flores' lawsuit against the NFL and multiple teams alleging racism and hiring practices. Horton was the defensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans under Ken Whisenhunt in 2014 and 15 and is alleging that the interview process he underwent with the Titans in 2016 was a sham as it led up to the hiring of Mike Mularkey and his elevation from an interim role in that 2016 cycle. Now, a Seymour Putters Masters update as Tiger Woods clearly playing through some pain. He birdied 13, bouncing back to get to 1 under. At the moment, it is Cameron Smith leading the way at 4 under through 14 holes. Several golfers in behind him, including Danny Willett and Scotty Scheffler at 3 under. The Preds are back on the road tonight after a massive win over Minnesota on Tuesday at the Ottawa Senators for a 6 p.m. puck drop. They remain 4th in the Central, 6 points back of the St. Louis Blues. And the Memphis Grizzlies have 3 games left in the regular season slate on the road tonight at the Denver Nuggets for an 8 p.m. tip. The Grizz have already clinched the 2 seed in the Western Conference. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour 2 of Blaine and Mickey here on 104.5 The Zone. Rhett Bryan filling in for Mickey Ryan in St. Louis, taking in opening day with his son, opening day of the St. Louis Cardinals. Blaine Bishop right here, ready to roll into hour 2. And the Masters are rolling right along. Tiger Woods was even through 12, and actually at hole 13, he birdied. So he's at 1 under and tied for 10th place right now. He's working out of some tough pine straw in the edge of the fairway out in the rough there and trying to get back onto the green. He is in the edge of the rough, probably 15 feet from the pin there. So, yeah, he's rolling right along.
With the leaders at -4, correct?
Yep.
Cameron Smith.
That's right. But he's in 10th spot right now. 46-year-old Tiger Woods attempting one of the greatest comebacks on the biggest stage of golf.
Wow. Just remarkable what he had. 3 or 4 back surgeries, knee surgery, and then his rods in his leg to save it, really. And then to be able to walk this course and then
14 months later.
Yeah, this guy.
3 months in the hospital, Blaine. They basically rebuilt his right leg.
Man.
Pretty wild. He's the bionic.
Has there ever been anyone, Lucas could help us with this, baby. Has there ever been anybody that has come back from so many different things happening, let's say, off the field or course, with all these injuries to, all the scandal with his personal life and now these injuries? I'm just trying to think of any sport where there's been something of a player like that.
Of that frequency.
Yes.
Yeah. Mike Vick comes to mind for me, coming out and making the Pro Bowl.
Dogs, and then what?
Was in prison for missed a couple NFL seasons, came out of it and made a Pro Bowl with the Eagles.
But that's
but as far as
that's major adversity of a different kind. But he's talking about that and physical ailments.
As far as
so many different things.
That I cannot think of anything.
Hey, let's go to the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline real quick. Robert in Nashville. Robert, you're on with Blaine and Mickey, or Rhett Bryan filling in for Mickey. Go ahead, Robert.
Hi, guys. What I wanted to bring up is the Rooney Rule has been like an open, damn near joke forever. These NFL teams basically almost know who they're hiring before they even get into it, and then they get guys. I remember Ray Rose used to make all the stops on. I'd be wondering if they even paid people to even come in so they could do that. But most of these rich white NFL owners think they're better than everybody else, especially black people, and I think the only way you're going to fix something like that is if the NFL Players Association got involved and came up with, surely they can come up with some ideas to equalize the coaching in the NFL. I know it's all about money and everything, but 70% of the NFL are black men, and I just think there's a better way to go about it than just pigeonholing people into fake interviews. I agree, that America needs to give people more of a chance, and because you look at my life in construction, Mexican people, they hire Mexicans. Mm-hmm. White people, for the most part, hire white people unless it's real cheap, and then they'll hire a bunch of Spanish people. Black people hire black people. I mean, that's really what's going on in America, but I think the NFL has done a lot for race relations, a whole lot, and they might be able to change some of that stigma by setting the right example instead of doing their same old, head nod kind of thing. I just think it's wrong, and it's been wrong for 30 years.
Well, Robert, you bring a lot of great points up there. Appreciate the phone call. I mean, there's a lot of truth to what he's saying in some of his comments there.
Yeah, it's just going to be tough to come up with a plan. What do you want them to do? Have a board that now we have Zoom that can sit in on all these interviews? Let's say when you're interviewing, making sure that the process is done correctly. I'm trying to think.
Can you do that?
Right? Can you even do that?
Right.
That's what I'm getting. I don't know because you can fine them and take draft picks. You can do whatever you want to do at this point in time. I think they've done a little bit of both, but and that's not going to resolve it. That doesn't faze them, and at some point, life isn't fair always, and sometimes the best candidate who has the better resume doesn't get hired, and sometimes the one who has a lesser resume ends up being a better coach,
regardless of race.
Regardless of, I'm not looking at race. To me, if you want to win and you want to win badly, you're going to hire the best candidate that you think can help you win.
Yeah.
And if it's led them down a road where it's not the majority of time minorities, then it is an issue. But how do you address that?
He brought up Ray Rhodes.
Yeah, Ray
it always
Rhodes
comes back to comes back to this one thing. You know who played college ball with Ray Rhodes? Coach Dave McGinnis at TCU.
They played together.
Yes,
they played
sir.
together?
Yes, sir. They did.
Oh,
6 degrees of Coach Mack, man. I mean, he knows.
That's what happens when you're
there's
around
a
for a long
connection.
time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Ray Rhodes. Wow.
Yeah, Ray Rhodes. Yeah, man. He head coach of the Eagles, as I can recall. Did he head coach anywhere else?
I think he was interim a couple times too. Like Terry Rubisky was interim a couple. He was
places,
interim at Washington for about 4 or 5 games. As I teased last hour, been talking about A.J. Brown, and the reason we brought up A.J. Brown is because Coach Mike Vrabel was on the Rich Eisen show today and asked him, is he on the trade block, A.J. Brown on the trade block? He said, not as long as I am the head coach. We've been seeing record numbers of monies and really not the length and the total monies of the contract. You look at the guaranteed money. The guaranteed money is getting ridiculous. Tyreek Hill, just $72.2 million guaranteed. I mean, good Lord. Devontae Adams, go on. So it has risen the floor price for an A.J. Brown, who is clearly one of the better performers of the last 3 or 4 years. And I'm looking at the next 4 guys that I think are going to get paid in this thing. A.J. Brown is one of them. DK Metcalf is another. Deebo Samuel is the third. And Terry McLaurin of the Washington Commanders is the 4th one.
Cathedral graduate.
Yes, sir. Scary Terry is a dang good player.
Yeah, he's a running back in high school.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's right.
Receiver at Ohio State. Yeah.
But I'm looking at all these guys. Terry McLaurin only missed 3 games in his career. AJ's missed 6. DK has played every game. And Deebo obviously missed a bunch in 2020. He's played 38 games. But all of them, very good numbers. But you know who's the leader in the clubhouse at 16.2 yards per catch? A.J. Brown. Mm-hmm. A.J. Brown has 16 explosive plays of 40-plus yards. Impressive. The best of these 4.
Impressive.
38 of 20-plus, But, I mean, you just look at all these numbers. He's right here with the elite. And, again, this is crazy because this is all the same draft class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'd be interesting what pecking order, if you wanted to, judge how good A.J. Brown is compared to those other 3. Like, where do you put him in that pecking order? And you told us about the yards per catch. That's one category. Mm-hmm. There's
all right. So let's roll through some numbers here. All right. So Terry McLaurin, 16 touchdowns. which really is no fault of his because they haven't had a consistent quarterback there, as you well know. The surprising one is Deebo Samuel only has 10 career touchdowns receiving. That's pretty wild. DK Metcalf, no surprise, 29 touchdowns, leads this group of the four I mentioned. 24 touchdowns in the career of A.J. Brown. You're looking at near 2,995 yards receiving for A.J., 3,170 for DK Metcalf, 2,598 for Deebo, and 3,090 yards receiving for Terry McLaurin. Terry, 47 explosive plays of 20-plus yards, 9 of 40-plus yards. Deebo, 48 of 20-plus yards, 10 of 40 yards or longer. DK Metcalf, 41 plays explosive of 20-plus yards, 11 of 40-plus yards, whereas AJ's 38 20-plus yard catches, but 16 of those 40-plus yards. The explosive nature right there. Big, thick, physical combat receiver.
Hard to tackle in the open field after the catch.
And I tell you, thinking about AJ, I got a draft crush in the wide receiving group, and it's Traylon Burks from Arkansas. I like that guy. And then after I read what I read yesterday, I like him even more.
Oh, my.
Did
you
you
talking about
see
the
that?
hunting?
Yeah. The dude goes hunting wild boar with his hunting dogs and a knife. That's it. Not a gun, a knife. And he's a bow hunter and a fisherman. He's just a country guy.
He's just a country guy, huh? So him and Big Ben Jones should hang out?
They should. I think he would be signing up for Ben Jones's charity skeet shoot contest every year. Absolutely.
Hey, had you ever been on a hunting, like that?
I've been hunting a time or two. I'm not a hunter guy.
No, me either.
But I guarantee you, I ain't hunting for wild boar, and I'm certainly not doing it with a knife.
Boar, like, no. You had whatever. But not that. Nah. That's
and feral hogs are a problem in the United States anyway. They get after the other livestock and everything else. But this dude doesn't seem like he's afraid of diddly squat. And he's, by all accounts that I can see from his Sam Pittman, his coach at Arkansas, and everybody else, he's just a good old down to earth dude. Great teammate, the whole bit. From tiny Warren, Arkansas.
You know who I'm scared of?
Who are you scared of?
I'm talking about not the actual player, but who's going to draft him. Who do you think? It's clear as day. Arkansas ties.
The Indianapolis Colts?
No. What pick are the Cowboys?
Oh. Well, and
they do need another receiver, right?
And quite frankly, Green Bay could take him at 23. Buffalo could take him at 25. I mean, he could go just about anywhere in this thing outside of the probably top 5.
Yeah, I wish he would. I hope he's there at 26 and you got to pull the trigger.
Boy.
I don't know. You haven't told us either, by the way. Maybe you'll tell us on the way back. Is what position group do you think, Mr. Rhett Bryan? Multiple voices all day, all long. Hey, man, I heard that too before we came on.
Oh, the Star Wars deal?
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. But you got to tell us. Yeah, well, I was like, what? That is awesome. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
What position do I think the Titans will take
draft
at 26?
Yeah, let us know.
I think it's. I'm just going to tell you right now. I think it's wide receiver.
Oh, see, that's what
I think it's wide receiver.
I just don't. I'm afraid they're going to draft a lineman.
All right, hey, we got to. Lucas reminded me it is time to give away some Preds tickets. Smashville, the Nashville Predators regular season is coming to a close. 104.5 The Zone has your chance to win tickets to cheer on the Preds as they make their postseason push. The win donation ticket window is now open. Be caller number 5 for your chance to win tickets to see your Nashville Predators take on the San Jose Sharks April 12th. 615-737-1045. Tickets to the remaining Nashville Predators home games are available. For more information, go to NashvillePredators.com/tickets. But 615-737-1045 gets you a chance, caller 5, to be in the seats at Bridgestone to see the Preds take on the San Jose Sharks on the 12th of April. Caller 5 right now. Blaine and Mickey, we're moving on. Next on 104.5 The Zone. Second hour of Blaine and Mickey moving right along here on 104.5 The Zone. Rhett Bryan filling in for Mickey Ryan, who is in St. Louis at opening day Cardinals with he and his son Christopher. Good luck to them. Great weather for them today. Blaine Bishop right here, ready to roll through hour two. Congratulations to Cody Bailey, who won those Preds tickets to see the Preds against the San Jose Sharks April 12th. So congratulations for that. 104.5 The Zone Spring Golf Classic presented by Ferguson HVAC is Monday, April 25th at one of Middle Tennessee's most prestigious private courses, Old Natchez Country Club. Tickets are extremely limited, so go to 1045thezone.com now to purchase the remaining teams available. And for the first time ever at the Golf Classic, you can play on a team with special guests like Titans legend Keith Bullock, Titans wide receiver Nick Westbrook-Akina, and more, with proceeds from the ticket sales going directly to the charity of their choice. You can find out all the details at 1045thezone.com. Looking forward to the Spring Classic at Old Natchez on April 25th. All right. Let us go to some Vol talk now because Coach Doug Mathews is joining us on the program. And let's see. Is he right here? Coach Mathews, is that you?
Which one of those buttons do I push, anyway?
You would know, right? No doubt.
You got too many buttons on that phone.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, you were at practice on the Hill today, and I know that they had practice 10. They had a scrimmage yesterday. What is your impressions of what Josh Heupel in year two of this program are doing so far this spring on the Hill in Knoxville?
Rhett, give me just a second. I want to get right to that. I want to let you know especially, though, that I am actually at Cookville right now.
Yep.
I stopped by to see our old buddy, that radio magnet, Larry Stone.
Oh, yes. You're at the lovely confines of stonecom.com. Yes.
Yes. And he needs to kind of redo this place. It's getting a little shabby.
Oh.
But anyway, he said to tell you hello, and also, of course, Blaine. Anyway, they had a really good practice. I think this is number 9. I think they're 15, and of course this year they're going to have a spring game. But I think most ball fans that keep up with it know that they have quite a few injuries. But the good part of it is their injuries; they're not significant injuries, and they are mostly to players who have had a lot of experience up there. So what that does is, yes, you would like to have them out there, but it also gives the younger players who need more reps getting plenty of the reps right now. So very good practice. It's nice, they're doing everything in the mornings now, ever since Coach Heupel got there, and it was fun to watch. They had probably about 30 minutes of scrimmage, but it wasn't really scrimmage. It was more thud or not taking them to the ground, but a lot of good work. And I was got to watch a lot of the younger players, and they have, I think, 14 players that are in early enrollees, and 11 of those are high school players. So it was a good practice.
Well, Coach, I just want to add to that. Was there a scrimmage like a couple days ago? Like they had a live scrimmage. Do you know about that, or was it not a scrimmage?
Yeah, they had one Saturday. They normally what he does, they go 3 days a week. Mm-hmm. The reason they had the scrimmage last week was because they also had their coaching clinic. They had 350 coaches up there, so they put on a scrimmage for that too. They always normally try to do that, but he will have 3 scrimmages this year, and then, since they're not going to have a spring game, I don't know that he's decided what he's going to do on that. But the scrimmages are situational scrimmages, Blaine, as you know a lot about. They don't really go out and kick off and do all that. They have situational. They'll have coming off the goal line. They'll have going in, goal line. They'll have third down situations, short yardage situations. 2-minute drill, 4-minute drill. They're those types. But you're getting basically a lot of plays run, but it's not a three and out and then 3 and out. I think they'll probably have one of those, but primarily they're situational scrimmage. And the reason is because nobody really in spring practice has enough bodies to do that. And then when you add the fact in that
they have they have 12, maybe 13 guys out that played a lot for them last year. They just don't have the depth to have a full scrimmage.
I don't think anyone's able to attend, even the media, but was there any takeaways from that scrimmage, or have you heard or what they have said about, any players that's kind of, stepping up in some of the competitive positions, whether it's depth guys or is it linebackers or running back or the offensive tackles that they're, shuffling around? Did you hear anybody's kind of moving up and kind of stretching away from the other competition?
Yeah, I think the good thing, other than if depending on how they started, if they wanted to start 2 tight ends and 1 wide receiver, they've got 9 players on offense who started last year. Now 2 of those are tight ends, and really the only position there's 2 positions. One is they're certainly looking for right now a left tackle. I think there's a couple of guys that are probably going to be one of those 2. And then a couple of wide receivers, but they have a lot of young wide receivers up there. But as far as running back goes, quarterback obviously, the 4 of the offensive linemen, 2 tight ends, and 1 wide receiver with Tillman coming back. They're setting a pretty darn good shape there. And some of those younger guys, they got three players who technically will be juniors, but they have 3 years of eligibility left at that wide receiver core.
Oh, well, yeah. What about that squirrel kid? I want to know about that squirrel.
Well, I watched him today. I'll say this. There probably have been some faster guys play at Tennessee when you consider Willie Galt and those guys.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think there's been any quicker. Now, he's not the biggest thing in the world, but, buddy, he plays that slot position, and he is quick. I'll be surprised if he doesn't work into the rotation there somewhere. But they got all 4 of their freshman signees are already enrolled in school, so they'll be going through all this spring practice. So, they need to come up with a power running back. The Whitehead kid who was there last year looked much better to me. And I just watched him this one practice. And then the Williams youngster who's come in, boy, he is a physical player. I would bet that he's going to be somewhere in that rotation, because they have to cut. Small and Wright are smaller players, and they need a power running back. And it looks to me like they don't have much choice. That's either going to be Whitehead or Williams. But Williams, the kid coming in from Georgia, was encouraging. Really was. He looked good today.
Well, with the Coach Doug Mathews.
Hey, and if you've got a question for Coach Doug Mathews while he's on here, 615-737-1045, talking spring ball with the Vols. And I want to flip to the defense for a minute, Coach. Tyler Barron, I read an interesting article in the Knoxville News Sentinel about him moving to a new position. Obviously, Byron Young is the Leo, the hybrid linebacker in that thing, and they want both of those guys out on the field at the same time. So now Tyler Barron is a defensive end on the strong side as they try to improve their pass rush and obviously work on third down defense. What have you seen as they kind of swap some pieces and parts around?
Well, I talked to Rodney Garner today for a good long while. You're right. They play 4 down linemen, 2 technical defensive ends, but really they got to rush in, and then they have the other defensive end. Matter of fact, last year was blatantly most disappointed with his defensive tackle out there. But Tyler is physical. He's bigger. He can play a defensive end position, but he's going to be that end on the other side of that. Now, I call them weak side and strong side. They don't call them that. But they're not outside linebackers. They're rush guys almost exclusively. Tyler looks good at that position. The Easton youngster who came out of Memphis a couple of years ago, he is getting better and better. He looks good there. That's where Bumpus will be playing. Bumpus is out for the spring with a knee injury, but I've been told it's not a significant knee injury. Of course, this will be his 6th year. So, kid out of Savannah, he'll be playing that position too. They're going to have better depth there, and I think they're going to be better in the defensive line simply because of the depth. They still don't have, particularly those 2 tackle spots.
and the strong side in. They still don't have that, that war daddy you want in there. But they're going to be much more solid. They're going to have much better depth there, and they're going to have some young players in there too that I think is coming along. But I tell you what, Byron Young is getting better and better. He is a big-time pass rusher. End of last year, remember, he did not play hardly any high school ball, went to a junior college, came in last year, and at the end of the year was playing really, really well. And he is Blaine,
I know exactly, number 6, right?
Yeah, and he can run. He's quick. He's strong. Reminds me a lot of Leonard Little, who is as good as Tennessee's ever had since I started following them, and probably a little bit bigger than Leonard. But anyway, so that position is going to be a good, solid position. Still not going to be one that's going to get a lot of, they just don't have those. They got good players, but they don't have that difference maker at defensive tackle right now.
Coach Doug Mathews with us here on Blaine and Mickey. Got some questions lined up for you. Let's go to Michael in Shelbyville first on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Go ahead, Mike. What is your question for Coach Doug Mathews? Well, Michael dropped out. All right, let's go to Rick in Columbia, who has a question for Coach Doug Mathews. Rick, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Hey, Coach. Boy, I sure enjoy listening to your shows each weekend. You're quite the conduit for all us Tennessee fans and what goes on up on the Hill. Coach, my question is, I'm just wondering about Jackson Lampley out of NBA. It was really high on him coming out of high school. You don't hear much about him. Just wondering what his status was. I'll hang up for your response. Thank you, sir.
Jackson Lampley, of course, came out of NBA, and he is what I often refer to as a soaker. And that's a term I learned from Bill Dooley, who is a great offensive line coach, and I worked for him 1 year at Virginia Tech. He's we have several of those offensive line. Toughest position to learn to play. I'm not saying it's the toughest position to play, but the toughest position to learn to play and play early at is the offensive line. This will be Jackson's 3rd year. He is making good, solid progress. I think he'll play a good bit this year. Tennessee's fortunate they returned 4 starters and a couple of other guys who started some games. But I think Jackson, he's working at center and the offensive guard, and I think he will he'll get a pretty good dose of backup snaps this year. And again, they got about 3 or 4 of those guys in there that are coming along, but they're not quite there yet. They're soaking up knowledge and strength and things like that. But he'll be a backup this year.
Coach Doug Mathews with us here on Blaine and Mickey. What are some of the areas that you, in your opinion, is what Josh Heupel is trying to accomplish here in year 2? Success in year 1, but things they left on the table. I mentioned, wanting to get the pass rush better. Obviously, 3rd down defense is a place they need to shore up because that's some games that got away from them that they might have had a better record. What do you think he's trying to accomplish in this? You've been in those shoes before.
Well, I had Tim Banks on, defense coordinator, on this past Sunday. I'm going to have Alex Golish on, who's the offensive coordinator, this Sunday on the Big Orange Sunday show. But, one of the things that I really listen to what coaches say in press conferences, particularly ones that will give you a little information, and Josh Heupel's one of those. And one of the first things that he mentioned, and then what kind of coincides with this, the next day the defense coordinator, Tim Banks, spoke to the media, and he addressed the same thing. There's no question that from a defensive standpoint, being able to, what Coach Heupel calls, affect the quarterback, and what Tim Banks calls is pressuring the quarterback with 4 pass rushers and not having to do it by blitzing all the time. I think that is the number one goal defensive team-wise coming out of spring. I don't think there's any doubt. They know that if every time, the only way they can get a pass rush is by bringing pressure, bringing 5 or 6 or 7, that's when you give up big plays. And the very best football teams, defensive football teams, I don't care at any level, pro, college, high school, probably middle school, if you can get pressure and make that quarterback uncomfortable, move out of his pocket, even if you're not getting sacks, if you can do that with rushing 4, you got a chance of being a pretty darn good defense. But that's the affecting, and Coach, I look at it like this. When Coach Heupel talks about affecting the quarterback, he was a quarterback. And affecting means getting him off that spot, making him look at the rush, the quarterback position. That is the number one goal. And that's why what I mentioned about Rodney Garner's as good as there is, but they don't have a lot of guys that have that special ability to beat people one-on-one. Byron Young can do it, and I think at times Barron can do it. But inside tackles, they don't seem to have that guy right now. Now I will say this: there's no question that they are going to be in the transfer portal market for defensive tackles, no doubt about that. But the problem is there's not many of those guys out there, that period, and the ones that are out there, not many of them are transferred anywhere.
Well, with the Coach Doug Mathews, I guess I want to add to that. When you're the head coach now, Heupel, in his second season, kind of take us through what his thought processes are and perspective is outside of making sure you get through spring ball with no significant injuries. What is his goals to accomplish?
Well, first thing, Blaine, and he's mentioned this a lot, we got to remember that last year he came in, none of the players that were on that field, not a single player when spring started was someone that he recruited. All right, none of them were. They were all recruited by another staff. So he didn't know any of the players. He didn't know half of his staff very well. His offensive staff he'd worked with, but Coach Banks and he had worked with Willie Martinez, but the rest of them he didn't know. He didn't know any of the players. He did not know. They intentionally did not look at tape from last year because they didn't want to make decisions on that. So they go into spring. They didn't even know where they were supposed to coach, what positions they had on the practice field. All that's different. Now, of course, they were coming out of COVID and all those things. This year they have really, realistically, their whole staff back. They did lose their wide receiver coach, but they moved Coach Pope up, who was an analyst and working with him, so he knew the system. All the players, they got a lot of players returning because of the COVID year. They have a good number of players out there, and all of them know what's expected of them. So this is going to be normally that second year of a coaching staff, you have a big jump anyway. I think we're really going to see that from Tennessee. I'm not talking about numbers of wins or things, but they go into spring now, day one, knowing exactly, everybody knows what to do. Everybody knows what's expected of them. The coaches know, except for the early enrollees, they know exactly what to expect from the returning players and vice versa. So all that was positive. I really enjoy watching practice because just watching and seeing the organization moving around and that was top shelf out there today.
Well, I guess lastly for me, I know the DBs had some, graduate, some injured, so you're getting to see some young players play and get some experience, whether they're backup safeties and, now playing corner to get some depth. Who's kind of taking, making it a little bit easier for the coaching staff, saying, hey, we've got a versatile player here who's kind of stepped up in the secondary, getting some more reps and getting better here during the spring?
I'll tell you, Blaine, kind of funny, after practice was over, Willie Martinez walked over and we were sitting there talking. Willie coaches the secondary along with Tim Banks. And, of course, Willie had been at Tennessee before. And he walks over and he says, what do you think? And I said, I tell you what, bud, I don't think they're paying you enough money to coach that bunch. they got a bunch of guys that are out. But, there's always a silver lining. And they have, I think, 4 or 5 defensive backs that are not practicing. And one good thing is, a very good thing, that none of these are serious, but they had injuries that need to clean up. But all those guys have played a lot of ball there. Most of them have. The silver lining is now guys are getting the players who have not played a lot are getting a lot more reps now. The Williams youngster they brought in from junior college, he's getting almost every single rep at one of the cornerbacks. And he has looked, he's a very talented youngster. So they're getting more reps with those players. Flowers is playing, and McCullough are out there, the two safeties. They're kind of providing some stability. But when they go with what would be the spring second unit and the third unit, I mean, there's guys out there that I have no idea who they are, and a bunch of walk-ons. But again, Tennessee's they're going to be okay at that position. They got some players. They're probably going to have, when it's all said and done, 9 or 10 secondary guys that have played a good bit of ball when fall ball gets here.
Coach Doug Mathews, that's the voice you hear right there. You'll hear him this weekend for Forklift Systems Saturday and certainly Big Orange Sunday. Always enjoy listening to those programs, Coach, and we thank you for checking in with us today.
You bet.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Have a great day, and we will talk next week.
Yeah, sounds good. That's Coach Doug Mathews as we are back to wrap up the final segment for Blaine and Mickey here on 104.5 The Zone. Blaine and Mickey back to wrap up hour 2 on 104.5 The Zone. Mickey Ryan out for a couple of days, taking in the ballpark in St. Louis to see the Cardinals. But the Hitman is here. Mm-hmm. Hey, we were just talking about the Masters, and Tiger has now birdied again, and so he's 1 under through 16, about to finish up his first round at Augusta. What an amazing story that is for the journey he's been on since that horrific car crash 14 months ago. Spent 3 months in the hospital. I read the article, one of the articles in The Athletic the other day about just what it took for him to get back and what they did to his right leg. He's like superhuman, man. I've never seen anything like
bionic leg.
Yeah, he's at least that, and maybe the bionic golf man or something. You asked me about golf, I enjoy watching it, and I have friends who play it frequently. I have never been worth a lick at it, and the last time I tried to play golf was trying to earn my golf merit badge in Boy Scouts, and it just frustrated me. That was one merit badge I could not finish. Now, going to Top Golf and going to a driving range, that's a lot of fun. Yeah. But no, you will never catch me out there on that stuff. But hey, for everybody wanting to go to the Spring Golf Classic, 1045thezone.com, there's limited spots available. It's Monday, April 25th at Old Natchez Country Club. We'll be there. And to say hello and to watch you guys. There's early and late flights in that thing. It's getting limited, but there's some opportunities with some celebrities to play with. Nick Westbrook-Akina, Titans wide receiver, one of those. Keith Bullock, another.
Mr. Monday Night.
Mr. Monday Night on the golf course. But this story with Tiger, honestly, it would be miraculous if he won it. But if he makes the cut and just plays through the weekend and is some kind of in the hunt from Saturday night going into Sunday, it may be one of the sports stories of the year. Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And again, he's 46 years old. He ain't no spring chicken. Now you're like, what? But Rhett, that's golf. I don't care. That's golf. He's playing with the best in the world at one of the hardest courses and a place that is hilly as you know what, 14 months removed from what could have been a deadly car wreck.
Yeah. On one of the putts that he made there when he parred, he gave the fist hold, lag, and say, uh-oh, I'm en route to being back. He didn't give the pump the fist.
Okay.
He gave the, that's a confidence.
We got about a little bit of a sign there that, okay, I'm kind of feeling it here.
So, man.
But if he's not in too much pain, it's going to tell the story tonight how much pain he's in.
Yeah, he's got a team
how
there.
Stiff that he will be tomorrow. He has to have
a team of people to help him through this rehab process if you want to give it that.
He would have
to recover.
He would absolutely have to.
Man, he's putting these guys to shame. So this is one for the ages. I bet you if he makes it and makes the cut, and I would bet that he's not going to make the cut, but the way he's playing right now, we won't see him, after today and seeing all the things he's doing outside of the course, the court, here to get better and rehab. But next to see how he'll feel tomorrow. But right now, he looks smooth sailing.
Yes, sir.
The leader, Cameron Smith, is now -6.
Blaine, I don't mean to interrupt, but the Titans have they've released a statement regarding. They've sent us a statement here regarding what we've been talking about most of the day with Brian Flores' lawsuit against the NFL, and now Ray Horton has joined that. Here is our 2016 head coach search was a thoughtful and competitive process fully in keeping with NFL guidelines and our own organizational values. We conducted detailed in-person interviews with 4 talented individuals, 2 of whom were diverse candidates. No decision was made and no decision was communicated prior to the completion of all interviews. While we are proud of our commitment to diversity, we are dedicated to continued growth as an organization to foster diversity and inclusion in our workplace and community, end quote of the Titans statement. So they're on record there as saying this stuff that we played earlier with Mike Malarkey on a Steelers podcast and also on a Ross Tucker podcast, saying some other things otherwise. And, to your point, there's a whole lot of moving parts and pieces to this. It's what's being put in court now in litigation, and it's alleged at this time. And again, I'll say it. Listen, this is not just the Titans being mentioned of this. This is a league-wide thing. All 32 teams, and it's a wait and see what happens kind of deal because litigation usually drags on for quite some time. Didn't mean to interrupt your thoughts there.
No,
Tiger
we're fine.
Woods.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just glad they came out with a statement and the whole to that. That's not how they operated in that situation.
Right.
So good. We'll see
That's
where it goes
exactly
from here.
right.
But it's going to be hard to prove in court that they misled, unless there's some paper trail. Let's call it that.
You'd have to find the smoking gun, as they say, right? Hey, that's Blaine Bishop. I'm Rhett Bryan, and for Mickey Ryan today. Had a great time. Thanks for all the calls and participation. On the way, it's Brent, Dawn, and Ron, better known as 3HL. They're on the way next on your home for the Titans and Vols, 1045 The Zone.
In the meantime, in between time, Rhett.
What?
Peace!
Peace!